something like this. This is the first one we've ever done. And what we thought was, we'll actually tell you how this came about. And the way it came about was this. 12 years ago, about a week ago, wasn't it, George? 12 years ago, we were in hospital in Edinburgh, in the Royal Infirmary, Dion and I, waiting on our new baby to be born. We were upstairs with all the doctors and nurses and the maternity wing, and everybody's all joking and everybody's all laughing, and this is going to be fantastic, and we're all excited. And we go down, and because the baby was extended breech, it was decided to, George was going to be born through a cesarean, a section. So we went downstairs, just to say the section. I don't know why I said that. Having 4 kids, maybe that was the reason. So we went downstairs and everybody's joking and laughing, and you get the overall on, and we had a lot of fun with the overalls and things. I didn't realise you put it front first and tie the back. I put it like this and walked in and they went, no, it's the other way, Mr. Reid. So yeah, the overall on, went in, had fun, sat there, we started working on Dion, everybody's joking and laughing. And as George started to come out, the atmosphere in the room changed. And you all know it, you've seen it, atmosphere changes. And everything went really quiet. And I'm kind of going, something's up. And then they took George away and they took him into this room next door. And you're saying to me, is everything okay? And I'm going, yeah, everything's absolutely fine. Specialist comes out and he said, Mr. Reid, can you come with us, please? Yeah, absolutely no bother. So I went into the room with them, and I'm standing there, and there's 5 specialists. I will not forget this, there's 5 specialists standing there. George is now lying on a table with lights pointing on him, and they're poking and they're prodding and they're looking, and they said, we have great concerns about your son. And I said, really? He said, yeah. We believe that he's blind. We believe that he's deaf. We believe that he has deformed hands. He has dislocated hips. He has a cleft palate. He has paralysis down one side of his face. And I went, really? And they went, yeah. How would you like us to proceed? Genuinely, that's what we said. And you kind of, it's difficult taking that in. Because I'm thinking, did he just say what I thought he just said? And I went, it'll be fine. No, you don't understand, Mr. Reid. And they went through everything that was wrong again, all these 7 things. How would you like us to proceed? I said, we're going to wrap him up, we'll take him back to his mum. Yeah? I said, absolutely. So they wrapped him up, picked him up, brought him through to you. Again, nobody speaks. By this time, I have to say, everybody that was in the maternity wing, it kind of disappeared. There was 1 person left. And we walked back in. And they then said, right, we're going to take you out here. So they took us out, took us into this other room on our own. And we stayed there for about half an hour with one nurse nipping in every now and again. And then they said, we're going to take you upstairs. Do you want us to explain this to your wife? And I said, no, it's okay, it'll be fine. And they're going, you should? Yeah, absolutely fine. Took George upstairs, and it was interesting coming into the maternity wing, because all these people that were there was tons of folk that were all happy and cheery and everything when we first went down, had also disappeared. And we came down on our own, went into this room, and we're sitting there, and I'm sitting to Dion, it'll be fine. And Dion's going, I know, it'll be absolutely fine. And it was. Because the first nurse comes in, trips, drops her tray, the tray hits the ground, clatter, and George jumps. And I'm like, deaf, is he? That afternoon, nurse comes in from, it was a doctor specialist came in from the eye pavilion, checked his eyes and went, actually, your son's not blind. And I went, really? Then another one comes in and as I look and says, oh, his hands aren't deformed. It was just the way he was born because he was extended breech. Then another one comes in and says his shoulder's fine as well because again it was extended breech. It was just the way he was twisted. Really? And it went on and on and on. But every time they went, he's okay here and he's okay here, they always came back to the same thing. But we still have great concerns. And I'm listening and I'm thinking, why is it we're focusing on the grave concerns here rather than this is okay and this is okay and this is okay? And this went on for a whole week. Nobody knew it was up with George. They were like, we don't know. We have no idea. We've never seen this before. Until about 4 or 5 days into it, a specialist came in, Dr. Wayne Lamb, and he'd come up from Great Ormond Street. And he was passing by and he walked in, took one look at George and went, he's got Moebius Syndrome. And like a lot of you in the room, you kind of go, what's that? Stupidly, I went back and Googled it. Yeah, and you see, I can see people sitting smiling going, yeah. It's not a good thing to Google, is it? No. Because, again, you get a lot of stories on there. So you're kind of sitting there and you're going, wow, I didn't know anything about this. And the one thing that became very apparent to us was, neither did anybody else. Nobody knew what was going on with this. We didn't know how to proceed with this. We didn't have any specialists saying we need to do this, this, this. George went back a week later to see the girl that actually diagnosed the dislocated hips, quote, dislocated hips, and she had a look at him and went, do you know, if I hadn't diagnosed this, I would have said it was a wrong diagnosis because he doesn't have dislocated hips. He has one dislocatable hip, but in all my years of doing this, I've never seen it because it had gone from that to that in less than a week. This is amazing. Can I put them in a book? Put them in a book if you like, that's absolutely fine. She said, I've never seen anything like this. Cleft palate, no such thing. Hole in the roof of his mouth, no such thing. Paralysis down the one side, absolutely. Lateral eye movement, absolutely. We saw that. But again, nobody could tell us. So we kind of took George home, and it was one of these, what do we know type of thing, and it was difficult. We've been in your situation, we know what goes on. It is very, very difficult. It's like, what do we do? So we kind of thought to ourselves, well, do you know what? The bottom line is this. We've got to give George every single opportunity to move forward, and we'll give him that. With two older sisters, we were like, do you know what? That's fine. He'll be absolutely fine. And he was. We decided that because when he goes out, he has to wear sunglasses. You ever tried putting sunglasses on a baby? Can't be done. So we decided that we would all wear sunglasses, including the dog. So when we went out, we genuinely got a set of sunglasses and put them on the dog. We put the sunglasses on the dog, we all went out, and because of that, George was quite happy to sit in his pram with sunglasses on as well. We went to see about getting the car done. Now, one of the great things is that you can actually legally put limousine glass in your car. Because of that, and they were, oh, fantastic. So he's chuffed to bits himself because he's now got a car that's got black glass all the way around. His dad's thinking this is great as well. So we've got that. And everything we did, we were having fun with it. A couple of years into this, and we went to a conference. And the conference, I'll be honest with you, again, if I'm being honest, I hope you don't mind me being honest, it's a safe environment, was very inward looking. It was very about everything, doom and gloom attitude. And we were sitting there and we met Kelly and Steve. And that was great, because we sat and had a long conversation with them. And we were kind of sitting going, this isn't us. I went downstairs and this one woman came up to me and she went, you do realise that your son will never be able to walk on grass? I said, if he can walk on water, I'll be well chuffed. But she was dead serious about this. And I went, why is that then? Oh, it's all to do with spatial awareness, da-da-da-da-da. And I'm thinking, but our oldest daughter, Catherine, hates walking on grass at that age. Are you getting confused with what's been normal as a child and you're actually lumping it under the title Moebius Syndrome? I think you are. Oh, and they don't like going on sand either. Really? There was a girl there, what was her name, from over the west? Quick one. Angela. Angela was there. Angela's son was about 12. He was outside and it was blowing and there was a lot of sand whipping up at this conference. And he walked in and he went, Mum! Mum! The sand's going in my eyes! The sand's going in my eyes! And she took his face off. Wow, put your blooming glasses on then! And that was it! And I'm going, I love it! That's exactly the way we want to see it with George. Molly cuddle him, he's fine. But the stuff we were told, he would never be able to cycle a bike. He'd never be able to, I mean, it was just constant. So off the back of that, we made the decision that, do you know what, let's set up the Moebius Research Trust. We looked into this, we were told that if you're a research trust, you can't be a support group. So we have people phoning us and they actually say things like, can you tell us a bit more about this? So at that point, we have to go into kind of autopilot and say, well, are you asking us as a trust or are you asking us as parents? Because if it's as parents, we can tell you, but if you're asking us as a trust, we can't say it for legal purposes. And they're like, that's absolutely fine. But the Moebius Trust has gone on and on and on and on. We were told when George was born, there was 2 people in the whole of Scotland had Moebius syndrome. One was in Aberdeen, and one was way further north than that.
Which one is the size?
After starting up the Moebius Research Trust, we found there was a person with Moebius 4 miles along the road. There was another one about another 5 miles into Edinburgh. There's another one over in Whitburn. And that's when we started realising that this is a lot bigger than people are actually saying. And that's when we started to get more and more people coming together and showing us what's happening. We decided we would raise enough money to get into the actual research of this and find out what causes it. And like I say, today is our first conference. I am delighted to say that George now walks on grass. Yeah. We were told George couldn't cycle a bike. I took him so many times on the back of a motorbike to teach him how to lean. Yes, he screamed, and he did not like it, but he went on it. We found that sometimes it's not about what you can and can't do, it's about finding a new way to do it. And that was one of the big things we actually did. I was desperate to teach him how to cycle. So we put him on a bike, and he hated this for this, right, George? He cycled and went, doof, cycled, doof, cycled, doof, and he's getting more and more upset. So we bought him a scooter, and we put him on the scooter. And you know, he did the same thing on the scooter. And it was because of the lateral line movement. What we noticed was that when he looked somewhere, he went in that area. So that's when we decided, let's do this. So Dion stood in front of him, I stood behind him. Focus on your mum, and he could scooter towards her. Walked around the corner and scooter towards her. Finally got him on his bike. And we said, George, if you cycle around this park 3 times without falling off, what did you give him? A camera. We'll buy you a camera. And I thought, safe. 2 days later, he flew around that park. And all he did was learn, he just taught himself to drive where he's actually looking at. And that was the difference, that was the big thing. And we're like, wow, this is great. So it's not that he can't do it. The biggest and the most heartwarming thing we've ever done, and we're going to share this with you now, because to us this just blows everything away. George, one of the big things he was told was he'd never be able to drink through a straw. Yeah? Because you can't make the mouth, the oo to drink through the straw. And he came in from school. Now, being in Scotland, most people down the rest of the country, really, you learn violin at school, yeah? You maybe learn a brass instrument. In Scotland, we learn bagpipes. Now, when I say we learn bagpipes, has anybody ever tried blowing a bagpipe? It is probably one of the hardest things you will ever do. I play saxophone and I struggle playing bagpipes. George comes in from school and says, Dad, I want to learn my bagpipes. And I went, fantastic, son. And he said, but I need to learn to play the chanter first. The teacher has said, if you blow that chanter and you get that chanter annoyed at the chanter, I'll teach you. So he put the chanter in his mouth and he blew. And all the air came out the side. So he did it again and the air came out the side. He did it again and it came out the side. He went into my office and he took out a roll of gap tape, a big silver tape. And he taped up one side of his mouth and taped up the other side, jammed the reed in the middle and walked in and went, I've done it! Dion's sitting in tears, for being honest. And I went, fantastic. How can we do this without the tape? At the beginning I told you that they thought he had a cleft palate and a hole in the roof of his mouth. Not a hole in the roof of his mouth, it's just got a really high roof. So he found that if he actually jammed the pipe right up into the roof of his mouth, wrapped his tongue round it, he could play the bagpipes with his mouth open. He went to school, he did it, and now I am delighted to announce George is the only person in the world who can play bagpipes with Moebius syndrome, and he's wanting to play for you today. Come on, George, out you go.